Are you a good guy or a bad guy?
So I didn't expect much from Tony. I knew Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers, which was an excellent film, and I'm not at all an Anthony Bourdain fan, but I think this film is the best film of the year. I did not expect to like this film this much. I noticed in the beginning the great direction, the 70s sort of vibe, and the story didn't seem too tight for me. I think it's a little bit unrealistic of a basis for a guy to just travel somewhere with no plan whatsoever. And I found the main character, Anthony Bourdain, in this biopic, quite unlikable, actually. But this became this incredibly tight coming of age story and story about mentorship. And I don't even want to say finding yourself, because I don't think the main character here really finds himself. I think it really is about finding a passion and finding a focus. And even if you're as chaotic as the main character is in this film, you need to distill your destructive energy into something. And this film did that super well. It's such a tight story in a world where everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit in Hollywood, because such a big part of the demographic are film nerds. I just found this classic story to work on so many levels, and it has its bad moments, almost feel good, cringy moments. I didn't like how Tony was so like semi-witty and sort of sharp-tongued in the beginning, and we at least think that this guy has a charm, but then we realize he doesn't at all have any charm, and that's one of his big flaws. I still appreciate it because the alternative would have been him like saying everything he learned, and the main character doesn't do that. We see what he's learned in his actions, and that's such a nice, refreshing thing. And it's a classic hero's journey. I think Leo Woodall did a great job. I love how, I think this is sort of his big screen debut-ish, because I think he's mainly done TV before, although of course very high-level prestige projects like The White Lotus. He was also so well directed. Like there's so many like cool close-ups, and it's not like overstated. Like when something is so good that you can overlook the bad sides of it, that's a sign of greatness to me. I think the romance plot element was a little bit lacking because it's just a bit far-fetched, and I didn't really find them to have anything to like about each other to begin with. So when she starts being suspicious but still forgiving, and they just didn't spend enough time together to really have that much to pursue, I feel like, in these moments in the film when they start to reconcile, and that becomes sort of a key part of the main character's growth. However, that's kind of the point of the theme here, that he didn't have a plan at all, and he didn't even know if he liked this girl. And it would have been cooler maybe if he just found out that he doesn't like the girl and just realizes that, which I guess is sort of a little bit what happens, but still, it's fine, you know? And the Leo Woodall character just works really well in this mentorship aspect. It's a cool story about mentorship. The pacing doesn't suffer from there being a whole sequence where he sort of starts having Leo Woodall as his mentor, and then the chef becomes his mentor, and it just works. And you can see how like there's so much potential for awful things to happen. Maybe the depiction of Cape Cod or wherever this is taking place could be a little bit more lively, but it still just works. You know, it's an uncomplicated story, and in a world where like even the Marvels and the Odysseys have to like reinvent the wheel so hard with what they do, it's just so refreshing. When I walked out of the theater, I felt like the character development didn't really cross the finish line as much as it could have, considering how so much of like the end game is just him like with his mouth open, like gaping, like thinking about these huge themes without saying too much or without like growing as a person externally. But still, it just works internally, and letting this movie sit for a day or two makes me realize that it really worked, and I doubt I'd see anything as good this year. On the big screen, I'd rate it higher than my two other top films of the year so far, which is Obsession and Sheep Detectives. And I found this quite similar to Sheep Detectives, actually. I'm on this wave where I'm like appreciating films that are just classic hero journeys and don't do too much crazy stuff. Although I do enjoy a lot of, like, I'm a big Emerald Fennell fan, and I feel like she does that a lot, but that was a few years ago when she was doing that, you know, and that was interesting then, and now it's like getting a little bit tiring. So let's get back to the classic storytelling structures.